Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast for a massive card looking ahead. UFC 292 is here, 2 title fights, and as you can tell from the fact that I'm wearing a basketball jersey, it's in Boston.
Do you know, I have got a Tatum jersey, but I only just thought about that.
I know.
Could have even stuck it up, but...
You're literally wearing rival colours.
I mean... Both
City.
got the green. Both got the green.
Both got the green. I had to go basketball because, of course, I don't give a fuck about basketball, whereas I'm a massive Dolphins fan. So there's no way I was ever going to wear a Patriots jersey.
Plus, same division. You know,
Too
I've got
much
the benefits of
rivalry.
AFC, NFC. Who
Too
cares?
much rivalry. But Celtics was a cool choice, and got Kevin Garnett on the back, which I'm pretty pleased with. It's a pretty good card. We can sort of say you've got an Irishy guy in the main event. He's not from Boston, but I mean, Delaware's. It's you know, there's not the same as O'Malley. He's going to get some love from Boston.
Well, his parents were like Mormon or something, weren't they?
His last name is O'Malley. He's going to get some love against Sterling in Boston. In Gary is actually Irish on the card. You got to think he's going to get a big shout out. A lot of changes on this card. A lot of changes. But
quite a
still fun.
compact card though as well.
Pretty much every single fight I have a vested interest in some level. Even from the early prelim first fight.
Got the Ultimate Fighter finals. So
spoiler alert, if you didn't watch The Ultimate Fighter, we're going to be talking about the 4 people that got through. But guess what? If you didn't watch it, you're not alone. Nobody did. There's even a rumour that more people watched our podcast than watched.
That's good.
Tough. Which is impressive because we haven't been around for 2 weeks. Partly because I was on holiday. It's my fault. I'm your host, Matt. Joined as always by host and producer Josh. He was here. I let him down. But it's okay. He's going to let me down.
We took a week off.
He's going to let me down in about a week's time. When he goes away on holiday.
Yeah, I'm here next week. And then the week after, if we do it late, I'll be back in time because I'm going midweek to midweek.
Okay. Don't feel pressured. We can still figure it out. But in the meantime, we're here, and there's lots to talk about. 2 weeks' worth of action. We didn't miss much, let's be honest. Weren't great fights. We're going to touch on them at the end. We will do a quick roundup. First and foremost, the UFC antitrust lawsuit is the first thing we're going to be speaking about. Big development, class action status for a lawsuit that could massively change the way that the contracts and the UFC in total is structured. UFC 292, that's pretty much going to be most of the show.
Yep.
And we're going to squeeze in a little bit of news when we do the sum up with the last couple of weeks as well. There isn't a lot, but we'll touch on what there is. Like the video, subscribe, comment, leave your thoughts and opinions. Tell us who you think is going to perform in this weekend's pay-per-view card. With all that out the way, let's wind the clock back. How many was it? Like 9 fighters ended up banding together or less when they put this antitrust lawsuit together initially in 2014?
Oof. I mean, outside of Lee, Couture, Quarry, I can't really remember who was like in the original group. But like, you know, even the people that were like talking for a little bit about putting together the union, like didn't really want to get in touch with this. It was a lot of hard work. Like some of these fighters won't even be due any compensation. You know, like Quarry won't. I assume Couture wouldn't. But anyway, like it's an amazing thing they're doing. I'm really worried that it's going to get tied up for a while.
So just
legally, but
just to explain what it is. So 9 fighters or however many fighters banded together. Mainly Nate Grory was certainly one of the key people that kind of instigated it. This is separate from Mark Hunt's suit where he was filing directly individually against the UFC for the Brock Lesnar situation where he fought a guy that basically hadn't been through USADA pool and had a positive test, and he ended up not winning that, and it ended up really screwing him. They were basically going after the way that the contracts are done for the UFC, saying that they use malicious bullying tactics to hold guys off fights, force them to take certain fights, hold them to contracts that aren't beneficial, pressure them to sign new contracts if they want to get paid and take fights. Basically have a situation where they have total control at all times and force you into the situation of either being under their control or being completely ostracized and pushed to the side. It's been granted class action status. What that means in America is this is now a huge deal. There's going to be a judge who presides over it. There's going to be a hearing. There isn't going to be a jury. It's going to be down to one judge. And that judge has already described their practices from the preliminary hearing and what he's seen so far as archaic, barbaric, and abusive. So just to create an idea of where his head's at the moment. If they succeed with this class action lawsuit, from what I understand, all the fighters that I think were fighting across like a 9-year period, I think it's like 2011 to 2020 or 2014 to 2020, something in that period. It's like 1,200 fighters would qualify. Could be owed compensation. And how much of that compensation they'd be owed would depend on their contracts, how long they fought for, what their personal situation was. It would also require the UFC to have to change their practices going forward. That means minimum length on contracts, minimum length on number of fights, and a whole variety of other stuff. So it would give the fighters a huge amount of control. It would massively change how the UFC can operate their structure. It would certainly change how they can push certain fights into happening or hold certain guys into situations. The part they didn't get on the class action was the right to use their image and likeness. So whatever happens, there won't be any compensation owed to things like the video games that came out or the Reebok deal or anything like that. It's only going to be related to the specific contract practices. Interestingly enough, though, if this doesn't get appealed successfully, my understanding is that the judge during the hearings could instruct certain things get put in place immediately. So we could see them have to put in a 2-3 year contract minimum almost straight away after the hearing if it goes the right way.
I hope that's the case. I worry that they'll be able to tie it up, but
do you think it could have a very destructive effect over the UFC's ability to continue operating if this was to happen? Like, do you think a company like Endeavor, where there's no heart and soul in it, they're literally just looking at it for the money that it can make and all the stock options?
I feel they'll make a decision if they're happy to cut their profit level, or if they want to sell it at less than they paid for it. But either way, I think it will continue because it would still be a profitable model. If you look at the UFC's turnover compared to like other major sports and other MMA organizations, it's, they obviously have the room to pay people more. What they've been really successful at doing is putting on a similar quality with much cheaper fighters, going through Contender Series, again, Ultimate Fighter. These guys aren't going to be getting big contracts. It makes it difficult to be as invested when you don't see the same fighters in the same divisions kind of like going up against fighters that are comparable, fighters you've seen fight other fighters that they have on their records. When it's always like one debutant, two debutants, it's very hard to carry in the same way because if you don't follow regional fights, you've never seen these people before. And no one has the time to watch that many regional fights outside of, fucking talent scouts. And even Dana White doesn't watch all these fucking fights. It's just, there's room for it to be better. I don't think it would be the death of the organisation at all.
And I think specifically, when you hear certain examples that fighters have talked about in the past, these are the horror stories they're really trying to prevent. It's, I got on a 4-fight contract, I said no to one short notice fight, and suddenly they don't offer me a single fight for 8 months until I'm absolutely destitute broke. And then the fight I get offered is an absolute killer way out of my comfort or skill level that I just suddenly have to go, fuck it. And then all of a sudden when I'm negotiating my contract, now I'm coming off a loss and I haven't fought in a certain amount of time. Now I don't have the bargaining power.
Yeah.
Or situations where they'll hold a fighter who has one fight left in his contract as long as he can go, and then offer him a fight, but only if he signs an extension to his contract.
And they also freeze your contract when you're inactive through injury. If you're
Yep.
not available to fight, they press pause. Just ridiculous.
It's and it is crazy. Like almost all contracts have a period of time of date. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, a footballer. I know they're hired for seasons, and you play seasons, but it's still like we're expecting you to play 60 matches. You might play 40 matches, but you're still paid as if you're going to play 60 matches, and you're only guaranteed to be paid that for a 5-year period. And really, here's the other thing that I think is always suspicious as an employer. A contract date ending is to give security for both the employee and the employer. And the employer should not want somebody to have the ability to have no contract end on their date, because that puts them in a position to be taken advantage of. If you're happy to have your contracts be in a way where there's potentially no ending date, what that means is the contracts are not balanced because only one side have the ability to take advantage
They're
of
very open about that. It's not employer-employee, it's contractor-contractee. Like,
Well, because they argue that they're independent contractors,
yeah.
even though they're legitimately only allowed to fight for one promotion under their contract.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where they stand right now with getting the wording changed in the Muhammad Ali Act, but
The Muhammad Ali Act would change a lot. If that was to really come into force in any way, shape, or form the way it is in boxing, the UFC would no longer be a promotion that offers a belt or a championship. The UFC would be a management promotion, and maybe they'd be fight organisers, but their fighters would have to be ranked by a world championship body that other people could fight for in other promotions.
yeah. And I think a lot of other organisations would be open to that, to be honest.
Yep, but what I'd say is that it comes with a lot of corruption, and it comes with a lot of stalemating. And if you look at the way that boxing is now, this is the kind of balancing act of both sides. Something that will be inevitably beneficial for the fighters, certainly on paper, will potentially result in a less compelling product, because you will start getting some of those problems with boxing that come in. And one of those problems does kind of happen, that sometimes you kind of have to push people to fight a little bit. Like sometimes guys need to be strong-armed a little bit, otherwise they're just not going to fight. And for your product to be beneficial, you need your athletes that you sign to be competitive. And one of the other issues with the Muhammad Ali X is it tends to push a lot of the money up. So more money comes in,
To
but it
the
all
top level
goes
fighters.
to the top level guys who negotiate these super fights, and they get 90% splits and all the rest. It's great for them because they're the draw. And if you get there, it's fantastic. But one thing I would say is with the UFC, although I don't think the entry level pay is terrific, I do think there's a very clear level of mid guys where, you know what I mean, they're not ranked or they're not title contenders,
Well, I have some thoughts
but they're
there.
actually earning decent money comparative to where they'd be in a boxing stance at that same point in their career.
Some of them are. But even still, like with MMA, just because of the nature of it, you can't expect to just get undefeated fighters against undefeated fighters in championship fights. And I think the way that boxing isn't like inevitable. Like boxing did that to itself. It doesn't have to be that ridiculous. People don't have to be that guarded, that greedy. I don't think it necessarily would go that way completely. I think just because you need to see guys fight against so many different kinds of styles.
Here's the worry, just to interject there. So the UFC has no issue, let's say, having, even take the fight we're going to talk about in a second, 292. You know the UFC want one of these guys to win more than the other, ideally. But even if Aljo wins, it's not a disaster because he's still a UFC fighter. But imagine if this was Aljamain Sterling against, who's the 135? Rafael Stotts or Patricky Pitbull at 135. Or something like that, like Bellator's main guy. Or Horiguchi or something like that. And then it's the thing of like, everyone's saying, when are we going to do the fight? When are we going to do the fight? In the back of your mind, you're thinking, fuck, man, my guy looks real good, and I can show him off against all of these people. But what if he goes in against Pitbull, and just gets annihilated? And then I lose my belt, and this guy's, unanimously now better than everything I have to offer. And I still need to book fights with these guys and put fights on with this weight class. And now I don't even have a champion in my own organisation or promotion that I can sell on that.
It's a problem.
Crawford Spence. That's right. We had an almost power cut that we had to pause and correct. Crawford Spence. You have these two great boxers finally fight each other after all these years of build-up. And one of them dominates the other. Absolutely destroys the other one. Doesn't even look like it's a competition. Looks like, why did we all get excited about this for so long if this was going to be what happened the whole time? So that's what promoters will be afraid of. So I think it has its benefits. I hate change. I hate all change. Good and bad.
I think the fan culture will kind of stay the same though. I want to see a variety of different fights, and get the opportunity to see people to go on like impressive win streaks. You'll still be kind of invested in fighters. I mean, this weekend Lemos is on a 2-fight win streak, fighting for the title. Zhang Weili's technically on a 2-fight win streak herself.
She won 1 fight and then she won the belt after losing 2. That's correct.
So
she'd also win 22 fights in a row before that.
Yeah. But my point is, you don't see that too often in boxing. It's very rare. It's quite scarce, unless there really is no other kind of challenges.
Deontay Wilder, I'm pretty sure, had like 1 fight or something, or came straight back after he lost to Fury. I think he took a year off and didn't box. And then he came back and fought Fury the 3rd time.
Was that not exercising a rematch clause?
It was, but you do have these rematch clauses in boxing.
Yeah, but if you didn't, you wouldn't then see someone kind of bounce back so quickly that often. It's
I don't know, man. They're literally looking for AJ to have like 1 decent win before they can actually like put him into the conversation again. And they're just praying that Fury can fight Usyk and beat him, so they can be like, let's set up the British super fight.
Yeah, it'll never happen. But I don't think it has to be the same way. Anyway, like, all of this is probably a long way off. Hopefully not for the antitrust lawsuit. Anything else you want to talk about in terms of that? Or do you want to move on to 292?
I hope nothing changes. I hate all change, even if it's good change, because it's different from what I understand.
I would say progressive steps forward. 292.
Let's do it. It's in Boston. Celtics! Boston people! Irish! Fuck the Patriots, though. The Patriots suck. Main event. I'm really excited for this one. This is really fun. This is a really fun, different style matchup, people. You got exciting striker with a personality I don't like very much, but other people seem to like him. You've got another guy with a completely different style, dominates you on the ground, great at taking the back. Jiu-jitsu, he can kind of funk strike in his own weird way as well, and it's hard to predict. And everyone hates him. Like, everybody hates him, apart from like 8 people. And he might be the best bantamweight of all time. He arguably has the best bantamweight career of all time.
Do you hate him?
No, I kind of like him. I like him more the more other people hate him.
Yeah, used to hate him. Or
I
not
hated him.
hate him, but...
Listen, I just thought that he went... You know what I mean? He had the tummy ache,
What?
but he didn't think the tummy ache was going to get him off school sick. So he had to throw in,
Yeah.
the hot sweat and the clammy hands and everything else. That's all I thought. And then I thought he was a bit of a bitch for 6 months. But then he beat Jan, and I thought he was really funny since then.
Yep.
And it's not his fault that TJ Dillashaw came in with his shoulder dislocated 50 times in the last 2 months. It's not his fault that Kajudo took 3.5 years off.
Yep.
And he still out-wrestled Kajudo. And I gotta be honest, I rewatched Mali's fight against Peter Yan. He did not win that fight. You kind of convinced me at the time when we spoke about it afterwards that it was like quite clear, but I've rewatched it. He got his ass kicked for most of that fight. And he gave up 6 takedowns. And we would not say that wrestling is Peter Yan's strongest quality
Yeah.
compared to Sterling. I think Mally can catch him. I think he's...
Well, that's it. It's on paper, you'd have to pick Aljo. It's just
I can't not pick Aljo.
he needs to be able to, and I don't think it'll be too difficult, but he needs to look to back O'Malley up, I feel. O'Malley's very elusive side to side, but where Aljo's so long, if it doesn't matter if you're fainting, like he's not looking to like strike, he's just looking to kind of spear you, and just kind of either get that double leg or even behind you and just drag you down. So take you for a ride, and
that's the other thing I kind of feel. This isn't like Marab Dashvili. It's not just like, he's coming in one straight line, catch him on the way in.
Yeah.
Sterling will spend a round sometimes just setting that takedown up for later, just doing some stuff on the feet, giving you some looks. I know you think the takedown's coming okay, that arm's coming down. I'll just spear you with a little something here, touch you up here and there. I think for me, the real thing this comes down to is I feel like Aljo obviously can get knocked out. Like, we know that can happen. O'Malley's creative, he's explosive, he's going to be staying on the outside, he's got a advantage, but he's a lot taller. But it's not like Aljo can't strike. Like, I feel like Aljo can survive and even potentially win a close round against a really good striker. But there's no situation where it goes to the ground where I think anything other than O'Malley's, at bare minimum, probably losing the rest of that round.
Yeah.
And
it's possible his jiu-jitsu defense is going to be good enough to survive, but you expect him to get manhandled.
And he's never been 5 rounds. I have no idea what the cardio looks like. But if he's having to wrestle a lot, it's going to go quicker than if he's having to strike. And I think there also goes, like, if you see the interviews he's giving at the moment, it's all based on this idea of, like, yeah, he's probably going to take me down if he gets his hands on me. Yeah, I'm probably fucked if he goes to the ground. But if I catch him, it's like, yeah, but that's a confidence that you have in round 1. And maybe in round 2, you might still have that a little bit. But once you get to round 3, 1, you're going to feel tired if you've just spent 10 minutes on your back.
Yeah.
2, you haven't hit that punch yet, and now you're tired. And now time's running out. And now you start playing these games in your head like, well, if I lose this round, I need to catch him because I can't win decisions. And now you're swinging, and it's easier to take you down. We know Sterling can slow down, but I kind of feel like the inexperience of O'Malley, I think his own cardio, I don't think he's going to be able to really put that pressure on later. And if he doesn't catch Sterling early, it's going to be an issue. And Sterling's usually a good starter, man. He usually starts really strong, even in the first Yan fight.
Yeah.
He started like a bat out of hell in that first round.
Do you think he'll play around with him much on the feet? Do you think he'll look to engage much more than just kind of feint and try and back him up maybe with like kicks down the middle? Or
he's going to be aware of knees. That will be the big thing, is not getting caught like he got caught against Marlon Moraes, trying to do too much side movement to move in. And he's going to be aware of trying to dart in or launch any double legs from too much distance because O'Malley's going to be looking for that knee. If anything, I don't think he's going to be looking for too many double legs. I think he's going to be looking to be a bit orthodox, throw stuff off timing, teeps up the middle, and really I think he's going to be looking to see O'Malley kick. And if O'Malley kicks anything higher than the legs, I think he's going to be looking to try and grab the leg, lift up, take the weight off, try and get takedowns there, maybe get him up in the clinch and sort of do more judo trips, throw down that kind of way.
Yeah, I think I can see that happening. I really feel that like the more he kind of looks to come in, just kind of like the more risk he takes. If he can just kind of back O'Malley up, that lateral movement's very fast, but as soon as he's fainting, it's kind of a good signal to go. And so he loves fainting like the spins. Anytime he does that, it's kind of hard to, when you're already over here, to kind of get your hips going either way. I get worried that he's going to take that puncher's chance in the first couple of rounds.
What is it?
I don't hate O'Malley, but I really want to see Aljo win this one. And then move up to 45. And I mean, he's a very different kind of fighter, really, with his grappling, but then presumably the age of Marab.
You would assume so. So here's the interesting thing. I feel like Aljo has to win this fight. He absolutely has to, and here's why. I don't think he gets the fights he wants at 45 if he doesn't win this fight.
That's true.
I don't think he gets an immediate rematch, even if he gets screwed in some way, shape, or form. And he might move up to 45 on a loss, but he's not fighting Volkanovski. He's fighting he's not even fighting Max. They're serving him like
Arnold
Allen, or somebody that's just got elite takedown defense and is a motherfucker on the feet. Just a mean fucking dude like Movsvar Evloev or someone like that.
Yeah.
You know, or Tupuria or something that he just favours against really badly. He has to win this. I think he can. I don't think he has to worry too much about fighting the moment. He's had 3 fights in a row where everyone's chanting against him for the other guy. And he's been able to deal with it. I think he's gotten used to the hate. And I'll be honest, I think if he can get a finish and like a really decisive win, that I certainly think stylistically is on the card, I think he'll win people over. Like if he manhandles him. You know what I mean? 2 minutes, tap, stay on the feet, gets a takedown, and just, you know what I mean, opens him up with elbows, cuts his eyes, breaks his nose.
Takes that DC trajectory.
You know, wraps in a rear naked. Or even if he does like what he did to Sandhagen. I think the narrative on him will change. Because I think people will look at it and say, like, okay, we can't, there's no excuses on this one. Like, okay, maybe you can say O'Malley didn't beat Yarn, but nobody looked at that fight and thought O'Malley was levels behind Yarn. That was a close fight. We all saw that and saw that's a guy who's in that level at the top of somebody who can be good enough to challenge for the belt.
And probably still only 1 win away from getting another title shot.
For O'Malley, there's no risk here. He loses this. Listen to what happens. He loses this. If he loses this, Aljo's going to move up. He's probably 1 fight away, and he doesn't have to fight Merab, because it's going to be Merab versus Sandhagen, or Merab versus Cheeto, or something like that for the vacant belt. And he'll at least have a chance to have somebody who's a bit better suited at maybe dealing with the wrestling than he would be. Maybe win that belt, and then he'd have a more favourable matchup against that person.
Possible.
Or at least he'd have a second chance to spend 6 months just working on wrestling.
Yeah.
Not that it matters, because Merab is a tank that is going to become the champion.
Submissions, though. You know, Merab got caught that one time.
That one time.
Or was he just sleeping? Sleeping off the victory? Who knows? You
can't submit a man who has no neck. Let's talk about the co-main event, because we got some fun fights to talk about on this card. Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos. I don't see this as the challenge that a lot of people are sort of talking about with Amanda Lemos. Which isn't to say I don't think that she's dangerous. And same with O'Malley. Powerful hands, powerful kicks, can knock people out in the first round, has got some nice submissions. I feel like Zhang's a more polished striker, more proven against higher opposition, more proven at the elite level, more proven over 5 rounds, better wrestler, better defensive jiu-jitsu. I think she can win this quite comfortably.
Yeah. I mean, I really can't even just picture how Lemos wins this fight.
You're asking, well, it's possible, but
I don't see it.
She's 36 years old. You can't imagine there's been incremental improvements or massive improvements since the last times we've seen her, other than her making sort of technical or strategic adjustments. But she's getting this title shot off, correct me if I'm wrong, she beat Marina Rodriguez?
Yes.
Now, I love Marina Rodriguez. I think that she was a little arrogant in that fight. I think she'd kind of been on the cusp of this title shot and could have maybe taken it, but thought, oh, I'm just going to beat this girl. She lost to Andrade, you know, went 3 rounds and had a tough fight against Angela Hill. How good can she be? And ended up just getting caught. And, you know, it was a good finish from Lemos, but before that, I'm pretty sure she beat Michelle Waterston.
Yeah.
Who's massively undersized and, again, getting on. And again, a good fighter, but not in that elite title challenging level.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to Zhang Weili, who's fought nothing but champions in the last 5 fights or so.
Also, those weren't very busy fights. You know, Lemos was able to kind of slow it down and kind of big sister it a little bit. That's not going to happen this time. I just don't see it.
Also, you just gotta think. I mean, Zhang Weili, she went, Carla Esparza, rose twice, Joanna Jędrzejczyk twice, Jessica Andrade. Okay, she didn't win Rose, but she won all those other fights. And these are all the best of the best. Different styles. Out-grappled arguably the best grappler in the division at that point, Carla Esparza. Outstruck arguably the best kickboxer and knocked her out in the second fight in Joanna. Went through Andrade like she wasn't there.
Yep, peak Andrade too.
So people keep talking about, the strength of Amanda Lemos. It's like Amanda Lemos got manhandled by Andrade, who got manhandled by Zhang Weili. Like, let's not talk about she's this is the same. I feel this is the same crap as when Andrade was having her 125 title shot. And everyone's like, how is Shevchenko going to handle the strength of the wrestling? And then Andrade just got completely out wrestled. I feel like we're going to see something similar there with Zhang.
Yeah. I think it'll be an early finish.
And good for Zhang, because she's had a fucking tough run. She's finally got a belt back. Let her just have a nice title,
happy moment,
affirming title defense before a Tatiana Suarez named person starts emerging, which might cause you some trouble. We have a feature fight. The feature fight is not the fight I thought would have been the feature fight.
Tougher fight, I think, for Gary.
That's what I was talking about. I thought they'd put Chris Weidman here.
And I believe it's Magny against Gary.
It is Magny against Gary. Originally Magny against Neil.
Yeah.
It's still Jeff Neal.
Yeah.
Now I said Magny against Neil. All these name changes. Gary was originally meant to fight Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal pulled out, suspiciously close in proximity to after when Gary printed a bunch of t-shirts with a mugshot from when Jeff Neal was much younger on them. Gary playing games. He pulled out the fight. Neil Magny took the fight because after Gary's last fight, Neil Magny was the initial person he called out. And as Gary has pointed out, he's gone from going against a short, stocky, power-punching southpaw to a long, awkward, clinchy, tall, rangy, orthodox fighter. So, bit of a change. I think an easier fight, although a much less exciting fight, because either it's going to be a very boring decision, or it's going to be a.
You think this is an easier fight for Gary?
This is a easier fight. I think against Jeff Neal, there's always the danger of getting caught. Good boxing fundamentals, really good chin. I feel Magny's more finishable now. I don't think he's as athletic as he used to be. And I think he's just lost something in his last few fights. I'd say the last 3 or 4 fights, he hasn't looked even doing the things Magny does. He doesn't look as Magny-esque doing them.
I just felt with the way that Wonder Boy was able to tee off on Neil, that Gary having even longer range was just going to be able to kind of make quick work of him. Magny, I think, poses a much more difficult fight. He's a much more savvy vet. He is awkward as fuck. He really makes his frame work. It's just, potentially though, I can't see, because really Magny does well against guys that are all-rounders or well-rounded fighters. Are going to inevitably look to clinch and grapple a little bit and go up against the fence, where Magny can kind of really excel. Gary's probably not going to do too much of that. I mean, his camp is smart enough that they're going to discourage him from doing that. He's going to want to stay out in the open cage as much as he can, and make it a kickboxing fight.
He's got a 30-foot square, a 30-foot octagon to work with. He's going to be on the outside. He likes to fight rangy. He's not as he says, he's not looking for the clinch. And apart from maybe trying to throw a few combos when he gets comfortable, Just keep it easy, man. Couple of leg kicks, 1-2s down the middle, get the jab working. I just feel like Magny hasn't got enough explosion left in him. The speed, I just feel, is completely gone. And I think even if you look at the fights that he wins now, he can't even. It just feels like he can't do anything on the outside. It's literally just a case of getting the guy, getting him against the cage, winning that little battle, and just landing these kind of little knees and touchy elbows and shots. And I just don't see Ian Gary getting sucked into that. Apparently, he's carrying this card.
I take it he said that.
He did say that.
How arrogant.
Yeah, he's just crossing into that. I've liked Ian Gary up until this point, and this week it's all starting to be a bit too in your head. You know, maybe he loses. Maybe this is the humility he needs.
He did once get kicked out of his gym gearing up for a title fight. I mean,
yeah, but his wife is really fit.
True.
So he's winning at something. He's winning at something.
Damon Blackshear, quick turnaround.
I know, taking on Mario Batista. I was more excited about Cody Garbrandt, but I will take Damon Blackshear.
Yeah.
Because, and we haven't talked about this because we haven't done the show.
It's coming
up.
Make quick work of Jones.
Helen Hunt would have been proud.
I haven't got it. You have to explain it now.
I'm going to explain it. You got a twister.
Oh, because of the movie.
It's the movie Twister.
I cannot remember.
I couldn't remember Bill
movie.
Paxton's name was Bill Paxton until just now, so I couldn't have said Bill Paxton. I had to go with Helen Hunt.
I don't know if I would have assumed Bill Paxton was in that movie.
He is
Impressive, anyway.
It's one of the 2 or 3 movies that Helen Hunt was in.
And only the third twister in the UFC.
Very impressive. He is looking to repeat that trick against the dangerous Mario Batista, who I think still gets the win.
Yeah, I mean, even just making weight twice
It's tough.
in a week's ridiculous.
Different opponent though, completely different type of fights fighting Cody.
Yeah, but I feel like we see quick turnarounds turn out to be poor decisions more often than wise decisions.
Well said.
It is an extra paycheck though, so.
And he stays on the main card, which is hard to say no to when you get that chance. Another fight that had a change. We had a bit more heads up on this change. Marlon Vera is not taking on Cejudo, which would have been a fucking awesome fight. He's now taking on Pedro Munoz. Sean O'Malley has said over and over and over again for the last 2 weeks that if he wins the title, he's fighting Sean O'Malley. If Chito Vera wins. So Chito Vera could be in a situation where he gets dominated by Sandhagen. Sandhagen then goes on to win another fight against somebody higher ranked than Chito. Won't get the night's title shot. But Chito Vera can lose that fight effectively the number 9 ranked guy, and just through sheer circumstance, if things fall in the right way, end up with a title shot.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but it would be interesting. That'd be some Bisping, Dan Henderson shit.
I feel like Vera versus Munoz is a fight of 2 guys who are really similar, but one's just a little bit more in his prime than the other one is.
Yeah.
Like, they're both guys where they're impossible to finish, they're really tough, powerful, dangerous finishers, good on the ground, good in the stand-up, but they're not quite elite, and there seems to be a thing. I'd say Munoz does this more consistently just against a certain level of opponent. Chito Vera, I feel, can beat anybody on the right day, but he can have 3 really good performances, and then he can have like a Corey Sandhagen night or a Jose Aldo night, where he just doesn't quite, he doesn't get his opportunity, he doesn't get started, and the fight just kind of passes him by.
Definitely. I mean, it's very interesting. I don't think it's really going to be much of an issue, though. I think this is a good fight for Chito. He's going to win. O'Malley's going to lose. And then we see the age of Merab.
Merab versus Chito would be a fun fight. I would watch that. Well, I watch all of them, but I would enjoy watching that.
They probably would be Merab Sandhagen, though.
What does Pedro have to do to win?
Start fast and hope the Cheetah doesn't get going. I mean, if you can hurt him a lot, and he does have good body shots. If you can hurt him a lot in that first round, where Cheetah is notorious for not always turning up.
Well, Pedro tends to be a good starter. Even the fights he loses and gets outclassed, he usually wins the first round and then it just gets away from him. But Cheeto is a slow starter. That could...
It's still... I can see Munoz taking the first, but I can see Cheeto finishing him or taking the next 2 rounds. So
neither guy's ever been finished, I don't think.
Impressive then. But still, I feel like Vera is still a ridiculously dangerous guy. And
I'm going to tell you that. I want to confirm that because I do feel like that's true.
even if he does drop the first round, I still see him winning the fight.
Yep, so Munoz never been finished in 29 fights.
Nice.
Cheeto Vera, there's 15 losses between them, bear in mind. It's not like it's like 2 or 3 or something like that. Let's look at Cheeto. Decision loss, decision loss, decision loss, decision loss, decision loss, decision loss. Neither guy has ever been finished. That is impressive. That's kind of cool. Does that change?
Vera by finish.
Vera by finish. Chris Weidman's on the prelims against Brad Tavares. I feel that's both insulting and anti-competitive because Chris Weidman did used to be a former champion. Brad Tavares is like eternally a top 15 ranked middleweight. It's not like it's an inconsequential fight. And that's got to be more important, at least now, than fucking
Blackshear Batista.
Damon Blackshear versus Mario Batista. Like, I'm sorry, Mario Batista. I know you're exciting. I know this is like, you're on the main card, you're meant to fight Cody Garbrandt, but like, shit happens, dude. Like, Chris Weidman's leg got folded in on itself. Nobody thought he was going to be here.
Which is why I feel like it's on the prelims,
Tavares just not going to be the guy anymore.
Yeah, Tavares has kind of benefited from winning the fights he has to fight, but kind of surviving through quite a thin time at 185 as a ranked fighter. Weidman, he was probably should have been retiring before the leg break.
He didn't look great before the leg break. This is true.
So
I think Tavares wins the fight. I just hope that Chris Weidman doesn't get horrifically finished.
Well, it's just if by some miracle he can take him down, game on.
I think if Chris Weidman can just get to the end of this fight without being horrifically injured, I think it's a win. Brad Tavares...
It's impressive he's coming back as well, I will say that.
Brad Tavares isn't an easy fight though, man. I mean...
Good hands.
Hard to finish. Decent takedown defense. Tough as anything. Doesn't mentally break. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Then we get into the fun fight.
Yeah.
Robocop versus Teoliolin. That's just like, what the fuck? Then it's Tough. So, unfortunately, guys, if you didn't watch Tough, the winners of Tough were Kurt Holliber, Austin Howard, Cody Gibson, and Brad Katona. No surprises.
Yeah, Oliver and Hubbard have a lot of respect and a good friendship. Brad Katona and Cody Gibson do not. I'm more excited for that fight.
That should be fun.
I think kind of just a better fight. Also, Cody Gibson did injure his knee quite badly in the show. Be interesting to see how his training camp kind of panned out.
That is interesting.
Then another fun fight.
GM3 versus Andre Petroski. There's just these like 2 random, just really well put together fights that are really good. I'd actually hand it to Petroski in that one. I think he's looking really sharp.
Yeah, it's just that GM3 can work his magic, but Petroski should be winning that.
He's another one that can just have a bad day at the office though and not look great, so you never know.
And another fun fight.
Natalia Silva, man.
Yeah.
The word is spreading on this girl. I think this is too low on the prelims for her. I don't know why we're not starting off with the Tough, but I don't make the decisions. She's fighting Andrea Lee. That's a really good fight. I think Andrea Lee's still ranked.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. She's coming off 2 losses now, but it is Araujo and.
If she isn't ranked at this exact moment, she's still. You know what I mean? She's an eternally been a ranked flyweight fighter for most of her time
Yeah.
in the promotion. Good fighter. I would back Natalia Silva to look good in that fight. I think she's shown enough. We see how good Yasmin Yazdavicius has looked
Yeah.
since that fight with Natalia Silva. Even the two girls that she beat at a lower level have close fights with decent people but lose, and she tore through them like they were nothing.
Yeah.
Good striker. The only real question I have for her is you see some of the monsters. I know Grasso managed to find a way to the title, and she's not the biggest flyweight, but you look at the rest of them at the top, and it's like Shevchenko, powerful. Oh God, what's her name? Talia Santos.
Yeah.
Powerful. Erin Blanchfield. Powerful. Yeah. That's the only concern I have with Natalia Silva is what happens when you have a real tank of a fucking woman putting you in those grappling situations.
Who cares? Super fun fight. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. And then another fun Brazilian fighter, Corinne Silva, taking on Mariana Moraes. Corinne Silva, most of her fights end and finish. Really good grappler. Moraes, decent kickboxer. This is a fun card all the way. Really, really fun card. This is like the third or fourth. No, UFC 289 wasn't very good.
Third pay-per-view.
Third pay-per-view in a row where it's like, okay, you're doing, even with a bunch of fights pulling out, you still put together a very fun product. And 3 pay-per-views in like 5 weeks? 6 weeks, something like that?
Yeah.
I swear we've got like Sydney in 3 weeks. Isn't that the second?
Well, didn't we have some gaps in the spring? Not like, huge gaps, but maybe like 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And to be honest, there are years they do like 14 pay-per-views. Got to start squeezing them in.
Okay, so it's September 10th is... Okay, so there's 2 weeks in between. 3 weeks in between. It's really not that long. And then I'm pretty sure week after that is Grasso versus Shevchenko too, as a fight night.
I mean, as long as they can keep putting together good ones, because, their business model dictates that won't last.
Oh, and next week is Holloway versus Korean Zombie. And the week after that is the Paris card.
Okay.
So they're on fire right now. I'll give them that. UFC 292 is fun. We've got a fun run in. Let's talk about some of the shit that's already happened. We did not miss much. And very little of what we missed was not what I expected. The most stressful fight I've watched in a while, though, was watching Luke RDA.
Yeah.
Because watching a man who's had a brain hemorrhage get punched in the face is not a fun experience.
And RDA took some rounds, though.
Yeah. He's always going to make it close, man. He's just undersized. He got in the right position a bunch of times and couldn't execute the takedown. Couldn't handle the pressure. And Luke's a good fighter, man. He hits hard.
He's a ridiculously dangerous fighter.
He doesn't put everything into his punches, but he's just chipping away at you with these cutting, hurtful shots. RDA he'd been in a fight by round 3.
Yeah.
The look on his face. And it didn't seem like it was from like one hard shit. It was just consistent, good pressure from Luke. I'll say I think Luke kind of figured on early, this guy's just not got enough power to keep me away from him.
Yeah.
And this is the issue that RDA has, is his style just doesn't work at 170. But he's just a bit too big for 155.
The stronger guys. It's always just going to be...
I thought Luke did well, man, to be out for a year and almost die of a brain hemorrhage and still be willing to come back into a cage and fight somebody and perform like that. It's very impressive. I can't tell you that I think it's a good idea for him to continue his career, though. And I say this in the nicest way, I don't see Luke being a champion. So it's a case of what are you doing this for?
Yeah, I think it depends who they offer him in terms of getting paid, but
But he could be a really good coach.
I mean, what's crazy is, in his season of The Ultimate Fighter, it was gym against gym. So there was a natural conversation to be had about who was going to fight for their gym in the final, Kamaru Usman or Luque. I mean, they were like, Usman's the better fighter, so Usman got the nod. But like Luque had done more in that series to like win fights, so...
Yeah, but you can kind of see with things like the Bilal fight or even the Jeff Neal fight, Wonderboy fight, he's just not quite there. And if you're just fighting to get paid, I don't know if risking another brain hemorrhage, which is like 20% more likely, without any further brain hemorrhage or brain concussions or brain...
Yeah, that part is huge, actually, yeah.
It's, that's the scary part. And I don't know if I really want to endorse it. But I'm not a doctor, and the doctor said he could do it, and it's his fucking life, and he's an adult, so who am I to say?
Yeah.
They told me I shouldn't smoke after I had pneumonia. Show them.
Well done.
I know. Goddamn doctors.
You want to talk about the co-main?
Talk about the co-main. Cub didn't win, but I'll tell you what the emotion was. Everyone knew he didn't win, but once they realised that it's Cub, it's just like, you know what? It's like when Anderson Silva got the nod against Brunson. It's just like, but we love this guy. Let him have a nice little couple minutes.
Did well in the second. You can make an argument for the third. I did not see it. I think 2 judges gave him the first round. Did not see that.
He was literally, he congratulated all the coaches.
Yeah. Even he was like,
shaking.
I'd have to watch the fight back, but I didn't think I won. Like.
But he's such a nice guy, man. That's the thing, is you can't even be upset about it. Because he's humble about it, and then they give him a couple of compliments, and he bursts into tears because he's just such a fucking emotional dude, and...
Fought well.
Sorry?
Yeah, and he fought well, it's just...
What's the Dawodu's like? We're not talking about, like, this isn't like it's just some low-level, just like...
Super Hakeem.
Hakeem's on the verge of being ranked, if not ranked in the top 15 already. He's certainly at that level.
Yeah.
And Cub's showing that he can still do the damn thing, man. Gotta love it.
It'll be interesting how they treat Hakeem Dawodu after this one. They have overlooked bad decisions before in terms of how they push you for the next fight. But it'll be interesting. I don't know if they'll necessarily reach for him, but I think they should.
What I'd say about Hakeem Dawodu, for a guy who's known for his Muay Thai, like that was his bread and butter. He was a kickboxer. Felt a little bit too comfortable just trying to kind of like press Cub against the cage. Like you got to think like surely space and distance was going to be your friend in that one.
Yeah, and Cub was kind of standing at the wrong distance for the majority of that fight. Just wasn't pulling the trigger when he had the opportunity.
What's he, 40 now?
What, Cub?
Oh, a young man's weight class?
Jesus Christ. No idea. Not young.
There's no way he's got the same reaction time he did when he was in his prime. You can see he's still got the power. You can still crack.
So I'm looking up his age.
Yeah, don't worry. He can still crack. He's obviously still, the power's the last thing to go.
39. 40 in a couple months.
He's in fantastic shape for a 39-year-old. No goddamn question about it.
And a guy that's been in some wars.
Serious wars. Good for Cub. Hard luck for Dawodu. It's worse when you lose a decision like that to someone that everybody loves, because you know that you won't get the same level of support in the outrage of the decision, because everyone kind of loves the guy that got the decision. It's like when Carlos Condit lost the fucking decision to Robbie Lawler, where it's just like, God damn it, and everyone fucking loves this guy as well, and I'm just... This nobody wants to hear.
Or more like Ross Pierce and Diego Sanchez. That was a tough one for Ross.
They happen sometimes. The solution, Dana says, is to try and not leave it in the judge's hands. And somebody who did that was Khalil Roundtree. Chris Daukaus, I don't think should... I'm going back to what I say, heavyweight is not a good division, man. There's 4 good people at the top and everyone else is shit. And if they go to other divisions, they fight real people. Khalil Roundtree is a real fucking person, man.
A lot of power there.
That left hand, was it a left hand or a right hand? I don't know what it was, but it came down the middle and Chris Daukaus didn't see it.
No. Yeah, Chris doesn't. I don't think Chris beats you bad at 205. I just think this was a bad matchup. This isn't coming down to 205 and being like, okay, so they'll have a little less pop on their punches. It's coming down to 205 and fighting like one of the power punchers in the division. It's not quite like going against Rumble, but it's almost like going against Rumble.
I think there's a weird sweet spot where big dudes who aren't very good can kind of have success at heavyweight up until a certain point. I feel like Chris Daukaus is just one of these big, tough dudes. But if he goes at 205, he's fighting athletes. He's fighting actual professional athletes. Khalil Roundtree is a fucking killer man on the feet. He is a mean guy. He is a 0% body fat type human with tree trunks on every single fucking muscular part of his body. He also spent like a year just living in Thailand practicing Muay Thai. So,
meant to get out an Eric Anders.
you know, I just feel like there's a different skill level. Like Chris Daukaus, the Daukaus brothers, okay, they clearly, not bad wrestlers. They've got jiu-jitsu. The jiu-jitsu isn't awful, but it's not, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy level. It's, I've done some jiu-jitsu and it's okay and I can do some stuff. The wrestling's decent, but we're not talking about like college Division 2 or Division 1 guys. We're talking about, I think one of them used to be, both of them were former coppers.
Chris definitely was.
Chris was a former copper. This is a tough dude that can probably be 99% normal people in a normal altercation. But when it comes to the absolute best of the best, he throws in combination, but his hands aren't where they're meant to be. That's how he got knocked out.
Yep.
He's trying to blitz forward, but the hands are coming back to the side. Easy target. There's no head movement. There's no spring in the step. There's no athleticism in terms of explosivity. He's just going to keep getting knocked out, man. It's unfortunate.
Well, against other guys, he is going to be able to be he's going to be the heavier hitter. He's going to be able to knock some people out. He's going to be able to win some fights at 205. But yeah, he's got similar problems to what he had at heavyweight. It's just
maybe he needs to take a year off as well. That's like his 5th knockout in a year.
Oof. Yeah.
Let's count them. Khalil Roundtree.
Lewis.
Derek Lewis. Curtis Blades. Jarzinho Rosenstrike. That's 4. Is there another?
That's enough.
That's still it's 4 knockouts in less than 2 years. And some of those were like, you went to sleep from some scary fucking people. That's harsh, man, but life's harsh. And it doesn't seem to be a good move to like heavyweight from heavyweight. There's no guys that are like making that move and killing it.
Yeah, and Roundtree was a bad choice.
Say la vie.
But again, UFC don't really let you pick.
We're not going to go through the whole card, but submission win for Lucindo. Very boring decision wins for Fremd and Dobson. As you pointed out, though, the prelims were fun. First round finish, Marcus McGee.
Yeah.
First round finish, Terrence McKinney.
A lot of all finishes.
First round
Some
finish.
sloppy fights though.
First round finish, Dolgarian. First round finish, Bidet. Amarim was made to wait to the 3rd round, but she beat the shit out of Montserrat Louise.
Yeah, Scarfell didn't really hold up there.
Great submission from Damon Blackshear. We've talked about this. The Twister, 3rd one ever. Definitely the least smoother. This is the one that you could see he had it for like a minute or was trying to get it in there for a minute. The zombie, nobody knew what was going on.
He had to trick that arm behind his back, behind his neck, like a lot more kind of carefully.
Zombie, nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Bryce Mitchell just rolled straight into that position and went for it out of nowhere.
Yeah.
This one was more like, wait a minute, is he going for a twister? He's not going for a twister. He's going for a twister. He's going for a twister.
That was pretty cool.
So good win for him. Luana Santos beat the living fuck out of Juliana Miller, who also I don't think is good enough to win the UFC.
It was not a good fight, technically at all.
It lasted 3 minutes and 41 seconds.
Yeah, this was awful. Very sloppy.
It was not as awful as Sandhagen versus Font going 1 week further back, just to round up that. That is the worst. That was so disappointing.
Different kind of awful.
Different type of awful. Corey Sandhagen should be slightly ashamed of himself.
Ha.
You are not allowed to be a main event and do that. I know it works, but like that is not. People paid money to watch you live in Nashville. That is fucking bullshit. Oh, my arm hurt after the round 1, so I decided to lay on top of him for 4 rounds. You know they've changed the rules specifically because of that fight.
Oh, well, I didn't know specifically because of that fight, but you know, don't think it's a bad change.
To prevent stalling.
Yeah.
And staying in certain positions. That is how boring this fight was. Is it's changed the UFC ruling. I did wonder if maybe it was because of Aljo, but then I thought there's nothing that he does that would constitute those positions.
No.
The only way you could fuck Aljo is if you tell him that he can't be on one knee and do the "you can't knee me in the face" trick.
Which we're not going to see.
Do you think if it's like round 3, O'Malley's lost like most of the fight, but he's noticing Aljo gets a bit tired, he takes the knee to do that whole like dodging and going for the leg thing?
No.
Do you think maybe O'Malley just goes intentional, just fucking knees him as hard as he can in the face, just go, there you go, bitch. Can you really do it twice? You're going to get that disqualification twice.
Oh, hell yeah, he will. Alright. Other news.
Other news. Well, the other news, I suppose, was the fact that they've changed rules, but they haven't really changed rules. They've just more specified that you can't stay in certain positions. And this is a cool one. You're going to like this one. Eye pokes. The 5-minute timer starts. It's not just from when the referee calls time. He'll specifically say like, and it's from now. And during that 5-minute period, a cold press can be applied to the eye.
Nice.
And a cut man can be brought in to treat only the cut in question. So if there's other cuts, but they're not affecting the vision or stuff like
Makes
that.
sense.
So hopefully we're going to have less fights stopped to like bad cuts around the eyes. Eye pokes are going to be given a bit more of an opportunity for guys to actually do stuff that can recover them rather than just do that over your own eye and hope that you can see in 2 minutes' time.
I take it a lot of fighters then report that like if given more time, they probably could like get past eye pokes.
Or treatment, I'd imagine.
Yeah, if it's just like swollen eyelids and things, like being able to get that swelling down a bit.
Little things. So I think that's all good news.
Yeah.
And we should probably 2 weeks ago, Tatiana Suarez did what we all thought she was going to do and tore through.
Yeah.
Andrade. So she's a contender. I think that's pretty much it. We've spoken for a good amount of time. Hour. Something like that.
Yeah.
Probably a good time to call it end to
I
the
need
show.
to make one cut.
Guys, very simple. If you've watched us this long, you're a dedicated fan, and no one watches this long, so we can say whatever we want. We'll be back next week, but it doesn't even matter, because none of you are watching right now. So we can say whatever we want. Aliens are real, George Bush was right. Goodbye, everyone.
I apologise for nothing.